What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 20. I'm recording back to back. I ain't gonna act like I'm not. I got an event for July 4th tomorrow. I said Happy 4th at the end of the last one, but I mean it today because that's when this one will drop. Happy 4th of July, everybody. America's 250th birthday. I feel like something's gonna happen today. Well, I guess tomorrow, but I'm speaking as if it's today. I feel like something's gonna happen. I don't know. I'm just feeling a lot of energy in the air. Go collectively, myself. We're all moving through this thing together. What do I want to talk about? You know what? I'm giving a talk at this event tomorrow. I don't know how many people are going to be there. 50, 100, 150. It was 150 max. Shout out Joe Hawley having an event out at Haven. And it's an event about sovereignty. And so I'm speaking on behalf of Entheos, and I don't even know what I'm going to talk about, but emergent sovereignty and microdosing. And so I'm gonna just riff on that right now as a little pre-talk chat. You know what? I haven't even done a podcast in this. I always assume that everybody listening is already in my ecosystem. So I'm going to do a little podcast on microdosing. What is microdosing? What is Entheos? I'm going to tell the story. If you've heard it, you could skip this episode, or maybe listen to it again and pick up something that you didn't hear before. But what brought me to microdosing? Why do I do what I do with Entheos? This all starts back in 2018. I went to the beach one day. At that point in my life, I was not in a good place. I was struggling. I was taking a lot of pharmaceuticals, doing a lot of drugs. I mean, blow, but I was doing a lot of blow. I would say pretty much weekly. Might have been rare that I wasn't. I'd go periods, a month or two here or there where I just wouldn't. But if it was around, it was there. My dealer had it. I was making sure I was stocked up. And because I would only do it, 1 or 2 days a week, maybe 3 on a good week would be the perspective back then. Bad week now, good or bad, I don't even care. But then I would just take the strongest dose of Adderall you could during the week. So I was cracked out 7 days a week for very long periods of my life. Drinking a lot, 2 to 3 days a week I was drinking. One of those is typically to black out, like 3 o'clock in the morning, hammered at the drive-through to the burrito shop or Taco Bell. Like, that was my lifestyle for a long time. Participating in the casual sex culture, which is so mind-blowing to me now that I have this beautiful relationship to what our sexuality is, to how sharing that energy with so many other people is robbing you of... It's stealing shit from your soul. I'll just put it there. I was doing it all. I was on steroids. What else was I doing in 2018? Still playing video games. I wasn't in a good place. I was doing a lot of numbing and distracting. A lot of suppression. A lot of meaning crisis. I was in a meaning crisis. Anyways, we go to the beach one day and my buddy gives me mushroom chocolate. And I remember at the beach, and shout out Colt, opened this whole path to my life. I don't know, if he never gave me that chocolate, I don't know where I'd be. Colt, buddy I lived with for 4+ years when I was in San Diego. And I remember he goes to give it to me, and I'm like, bro, don't mushrooms make you lose your mind? He's like, dude, I've seen you snort shit out of a stranger's bag. Like, take the fucking chocolate. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Okay. So I take this little mushroom chocolate. And 90 minutes later, my whole life changed. I don't mean that lightly. It took me a few years to unwind that lifestyle, to really leave it, leading up to the panic attack I talked about in the last episode. But something happened when that microdose hit me. When I really dropped into the moment and the mind quieted and I felt present and I was more attuned to my emotional state. All of a sudden, I was able to grab something that I knew was there, but I'd been running from for a long time, which is I hated my life. I hated how I was living it, how I felt, how I spent my time. And it's like I always knew that. I was getting the whisper, I was getting the ping, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't honoring it. I was in fear of looking at that part of myself. Wow, I just had an allergy flare up. I had a fear of looking at it. But in that microdose, I was presented this truth that I could not run from anymore. And it really started the unwinding. From that day, over the next 6 months, I started microdosing regularly and started to get off my Adderall and work off getting off, I was taking Valium constantly for my anxiety. I'd buy I'd buy Xanax from friends and take it just to sleep on the weekends if I partied too hard. I was doing Adderall during the week. I'd fuck around and take opioids or snort them every once in a while. Like I started to use microdosing to wean off of all of those bad behaviors and like start to feel my anxiety instead of running from it through microdosing. Started to get off Adderall. I got off Adderall within 4 months of started microdosing. And that first year was really about clearing all the pharmaceuticals out of my life. And my definition of drug versus a medicine expands your experience of life, a drug contracts it. Show me a pharmaceutical that expands your experience of life, that doesn't destroy your libido, cause side effects, make you feel like shit in a different way, give you brain fog, destroy your personality, create numbness. At least in my opinion, that was my experience. And about 6 months in, I started clearing these things out, but I was like, man, I still feel this underlining hum of I don't feel good. So I went back to Colt and like, dude, this has been great, but I still need more. It's like, I'm going to give you 1.5 grams of mushrooms. Stay at home on Friday and just eat these. I was like, okay. So I stayed at home on Friday and put on Rufus the Soul. I ate a bunch of mushrooms and I laid on my couch with an eye mask and I took my first little journey. And I cried for the first time in years. And I felt gratitude for the first time in years. And I texted a bunch of my friends how much I loved them. And such a beautiful experience. Really opened up this process for me where over the next 2 years, I probably did dozens of those journeys at home on a Friday. Instead of going out drinking, I'd just take mushrooms and explore my innards. And then I found a teacher and started working with the teacher. Anyway, in that period of time, I started making capsules for myself, microdose capsules. And I was working at a bank at the time where I was an asshole when I was on my Adderall. And I would give the underwriters a lot of shit when things weren't going my way. And when I got off the Adderall and was microdosing, my CEO came up to me. He's like, dude, what have you been doing? You're a completely different person. I was like, I started taking these mushrooms, bro. And he's like, what? Give me some. So I gave him some. The next day he comes to work. He's like, can I buy 10 bottles? I was like, what? He's like, bro, I loved that. And the CEO of the bank I was at, shout out John, I would say his last name, is the whole reason I had the idea of starting Entheos. I was like, wait, somebody wants to offer me an exchange for these mushrooms? Like, okay, I can do this. And that was the initial idea for Entheos. I went to a couple buddies of mine at the time who knew how to grow, and they were my first partners in this venture that we did for a few years. Shout out Matt and Timmy. And that started the whole path of Entheos. Now, we can fast forward to here. There's been a lot of iterations and different things that have happened in Entheos' lifestyle there. But one of the things that I noticed in my own self the first 4 or 5 years of offering these medicines to people is I constantly talked about it from the realm of science. I was constantly looking at it from the realm of what are these things doing how do I explain what this benefit is, how it's changing my life? It was neuroplasticity and neurogenesis and glutamate GABA regulation and increase in brain-derived neurotropic factor. Now we know it increases cellular longevity by 50%. Increases the gut microbiome. What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, there's all these benefits that I can lay out in science, but that doesn't describe the experience. This is why everything I talk about is from a spiritual lens. Everything starts as spiritual. We're describing the physical and calling that the emanation of our experience of life. That's not it. Nothing begins in the physical. Everything is an emanation of spirit. And at the time, we were working with this gentleman and going to his events, and this is about 2 years ago now, maybe less. And it was the first time I had like 150 conversations back to back to back to back about microdosing and what it is. And one of the things that I had noticed is, as you know, because this is what a flow state is you get out of the mind when you're in repetition and when you flow. And this is part of why I want to do the podcast, is like put myself in this challenging situation to learn to just flow and riff on the top of my mind of what's true and what's alive. And in that moment and in that situation, the first 50 conversations I had were science directed. And then all of a sudden, this thing came out of my mouth that gave me a pause, because it was like I was witnessing a truth leave me that felt true that I didn't even know I wanted to say. And one of the people I was talking to, I wish I remembered who it was, because it was such a powerful moment for me. I was like, microdosing is a spiritual practice of reconnecting to the mind, body, and soul. I was like, what? Where the fuck did that come from? Where did that come from? And in that moment, and it's evolved now, obviously, I do these cohorts. I have this whole mind, body, soul framework that takes me 6 weeks to teach. It continues to expand and grow on itself. It is the most powerful thing I've ever had come through me to be created in form of a teaching, because I have a few others, and it doesn't feel like mine. It feels like this thing I've witnessed come through. And it was the first time I was able to put an understanding to the experience I was having that was outside of the guise of science that never made sense to me in the first place. And so this is what microdosing is. Microdosing is a spiritual practice of reconnecting to the mind, body, and soul. And the way that we find God is through the self. So when we are disconnected from ourselves, we are disconnected from God. And the world we live in thrives off of that. So the most radical thing we can do is find that reconnection to the self through the aspects of mind, body, and soul. And when I say mind, I'm talking about our awareness. The awareness of our stories that we tell ourselves. The beliefs we hold. Our patterns, our wounds, our traumas, our programs, our inner dialogue. The way we talk to ourselves. The way we talk outwardly. Our words are spells. They're powerful. And when we are disconnected from our mind, when we are disconnected from that awareness, we're living life on autopilot under the guise of the programs that were given to us in childhood, through religion, through school, whatever way we were indoctrinated, our parents, the people we surround ourselves with. So when we are disconnected from the faculty of the mind, which is awareness, the essence of the mind, we're living in the programs that were given to us and then wondering why our life is in suffering. The body is our emotions. Most of us were not taught how to feel. And Bruce Lipton's work does this really beautiful. Our first 7 years of our life were basically in hypnosis. And so we're picking up on all the programming around us. And so if we were a child and we weren't given a safe space for our system to regulate itself when we had emotional processes to come up, we were taught to not feel, to suppress, to you're okay, or I got in trouble when we would be too emotional. We get sent to our rooms. So isolation was related to me being in an emotional process. I got in trouble. It was punishment. So I learned to suppress. We weren't taught how to feel. And so when we become disconnected from the body, we become sick. I believe that all physical sickness is trapped emotion in the body. That emotion is energy that is meant to be in motion. When it stagnates, it creates sickness because that is the symptom pointing us where to look. The body is an incredibly intelligent mechanism. Incredibly intelligent. So intelligent the mind cannot comprehend it. And so when we don't feel what wants to move through us, what the animal body knows how to do, because the mind gets in the way through the stories it tells out of a protection of itself, then the body starts to become ill. And so when we're disconnected from the body, we're sick. We suffer. We're in dis-ease. And the soul is the heart. The soul is your blueprint. It is what you came into this life to do. And it's only accessed through the heart. It is where your meaning lives, where your purpose lives, where your truth wants to be spoken. That's where the pings and the whispers come from. The mind is the antenna for what the heart speaks. And so microdosing is a spiritual practice of reconnecting to the mind, body, soul, to the awareness, the body, and the heart. Because in that disconnection is where we suffer. All sickness and suffering is a disconnection of those three components of self, the Holy Trinity. Because the mind is also the masculine and the father. The heart is the mother and the feminine. And the body is the inner child and the divine child. That is the Holy Trinity, in my opinion. Not Father, Son, Holy Ghost. It's been captured by the patriarchy. It is the Holy Trinity of mother, father, divine child, the foundational requirements of birth. There's a reason why the mind, body, soul has been talked about in every major spiritual and religious tradition going back thousands of years. There's a clear delineation of truth within that framework. And so now from that different perspective, when I microdose, it makes so much more sense. I'm like, oh, this is what my mind is quieting. My rumination stops. I'm more hyper aware of my thoughts and what's happening in my environment. I'm more attuned to the present moment. My body, I feel the anxiety more. I feel more joy. I feel more pleasure. I feel more bliss. It's like, yeah, I'm connected to my emotions. In my heart, I start to recognize my truth, the truth I'm avoiding. Wow, I'm not happy in this relationship. Wow, I don't like my job. Wow, I am being suppressed in my own way. Wow, I don't use my voice enough. These are all spiritual components of the human experience. I can't locate a thought. I can tell you what part of my brain fires. That's the physical representation of the spiritual nature. Point to my body where I'm feeling an emotion when I'm emoting. You can't. I can witness the expression of emotion, but that's a spiritual component in all things of the heart. Show me where love is. Spiritual. All things of the heart, meaning and purpose. So when we microdose, we reconnect to the parts of us we lost. And in that process, we start to gain sovereignty. Because I'm eliminating anything outside of myself. I'm bringing all trust back into myself. I think in front of the kernel. Sovereignty. Yeah, microdosing brought me sovereignty. It was my path into sovereignty. Helped bring me back home to the self. And the deeper I go into myself, the deeper I find connection to God. I've said it and I'll say it again. Because we are fractals of the infinite. I am part of God. God is part of me. I find it through me. This is what entheos means. Entheos means the God within. En in theos, God. The God within. Entheos holistics. When we live a holistic life of reconnecting to the mind, body, soul, we find God within. This is the whole purpose. This is why microdosing is powerful. And it's deep. This mind, body, soul framework goes deep, but it's all about sovereignty. It's about coming back home to the self. It's about learning to trust yourself. What are your thoughts? What are you avoiding? What truth are you avoiding? What are you avoiding speaking? What truth are you avoiding feeling? What truth are you avoiding living? Where are you living out of alignment to what you know you really want for yourself and this life? And when we start to come back home, and I think this is one of the gifts that AI is going to bring us that we don't see yet. We'll see it in 10 years from now, but AI is going to come in and strip us of everything we've known. It's going to take our jobs and all the things that gave us identity and these ecosystems we lived in, and it's going to force us to come back to what it is to be a creative human. To tap into that inner divine power you have, to tap into your soul, which is your heart, and through that heart you find your purpose, and the purpose is to be of service to others. And you have, because you are authentic, you are individualized, you have something to offer the world nobody else has. And this is what microdosing helps with. It brings us back home to the self. And one of the things I'm realizing, this is what I'm talking on tomorrow. Thank you for working through this with me, all. I feel like I was bouncing around for a little bit, but now I'm getting some clarity. Microdosing helped me find sovereignty within myself because I believe that sovereignty is the doorway to authenticity, and authenticity is the doorway for us living the most magical life that we can live. Because when I am authentic, I'm a highest frequency being I can be. Because authenticity is the highest frequency that we can measure. And I pray and I imagine a world where all of us find a piece of our own authenticity and we bring that into this life. That's why microdosing has such a powerful place in my heart. It has helped bring sovereignty back to my life. It has helped teach me how to trust myself, how to confront my truth, how to find where I'm giving my power away, how to feel. And in that sovereignty, I opened the door that led me back to finding the more authentic parts of myself that I gave away to other people by needing to pretend to be somebody I wasn't. And that is the most exhausting thing that we can do in this life. The most exhausting thing we can do is not be ourselves. So if you don't feel like you're yourself, if you feel like there's more for you in this life, if you feel like you're watching life happen, you're missing out on some greater purpose that you have, you can feel You can't put it into words, but you can tell that there's just more. I promise you, this path will help you find it. I've seen it countless times, hundreds and hundreds of people. We are spiritually sick. We are not physically sick. This is why our medicine is not working. This is why science is not working. It's because everything we're experiencing in the world is a spiritual issue. We are spiritually disconnected from ourselves. We are spiritually disconnected from God. And when we are spiritually sick, it manifests as physical symptoms. And so the pathway back to healing is through the pathway of yourself. Thank you, Entheos, for being the biggest teacher in my life. Wow, it's been quite the 8 years. And starting the sanctuary and really honoring the spiritual component of these medicines has been really profound to me. Because the truth is, I didn't find God until I had my first 5-gram mushroom experience. And then everything made sense. What 22 years in the church could never teach me, in 5 hours, I experienced the thing that was always told to me. I've experienced God in a way no book will ever, ever, ever be able to do. I've read all the books, y'all. These mushrooms changed, saved, and healed me in so many ways. And I am forever grateful, which is why I choose to serve them back. And with that, I feel complete. Appreciate y'all. Happy 4th of July. May you be safe. May you be blessed. And I'll see you back tomorrow for episode 21. Peace, y'all.